In a small town in Texas, a respected pastor held the trust of his congregation. But behind his kind smile and comforting sermons, he was hiding a dark secret. For 10 years, he manipulated and abused a young girl from his church, using his power to silence her. She was just a teenager when it all began, and as the years passed, her fear and confusion only grew. She tried to keep her pain hidden, but everything changed when she realized she was pregnant. The truth was about to come out, but instead of facing his actions, the pastor made a chilling decision that would keep his secret safe, no matter the cost. How far was he willing to go to protect himself? And what would happen to the girl who had suffered in silence for so long? Stay tuned as we uncover the shocking twists in this heartbreaking story. The pastor's grip on her life had only tightened over the years. He isolated her from others, making her believe that no one would understand the truth. Whenever she tried to reach out, he would twist her fears, convincing her that her future, her family, and even her faith were all at risk. The church saw him as a hero, a man who had devoted his life to guiding others. She was just another member of the congregation, an invisible, disposable one in his eyes. As the pregnancy grew more obvious, her fear turned into panic. She didn't know how to hide it any longer. She felt her world crumbling, and yet the pastor's influence never wavered. He began to take drastic steps, making sure no one suspected a thing. What could he do to cover it up? How far was he willing to go to protect his reputation and to keep his dark secret hidden? The answers were more shocking than she ever could have imagined. She felt trapped, drowning in a secret too big to carry alone. Every Sunday, she sat in the front row of the church, forced to listen as he preached about morality, about faith, about living a righteous life. No one knew the truth. No one saw the fear in her eyes. She wanted to believe someone would notice. The way she flinched when he walked by, the way she avoided his touch in public. But the pastor was too careful. He had built a life around his lies, and he wasn't about to let one girl ruin it. When she found out she was pregnant, she couldn't breathe. Her hands shook as she stared at the test, her mind racing with questions. What would happen if the church found out? Would they blame her? Would they believe her? She thought about running, about telling someone, but before she could act, the pastor made a chilling move that changed everything. The pregnancy was the tipping point. She could no longer hide the truth. Every day, the fear of being discovered gnawed at her, but the weight of the secret was unbearable. The pastor had always been one step ahead, convincing her that there was no way out, that no one would believe her. She wanted to scream, to tell someone, anyone, but the fear of losing everything. Her family, her faith, the life she had known, held her back. As her belly grew, so did the tension. She became more isolated, avoiding eye contact, disappearing for long stretches, desperate to figure out what to do. The town was oblivious, wrapped up in their own lives, never seeing the pain in her eyes. She began to wonder if anyone would ever care enough to notice, if anyone would ever hear her silent cries for help. That in a moment of twisted desperation, the pastor made a move that would change everything, pushing everything to the edge, where there was no turning back. What was he willing to do to ensure his secret stayed buried? Would she find the courage to expose the truth before it was too late? The clock was ticking, and everything was about to unravel. As the pastor's grip on her life tightened, she began to realize how deeply he had ensnared her. Her pregnancy wasn't just a threat to him. It was the perfect storm that could bring his whole world crashing down. But the pastor wasn't going to let that happen. His next move would leave everyone stunned. In an attempt to control the situation, he forced her into a terrible decision. He started pushing her to lie, telling her that no one would believe her anyway, and that she had nowhere to turn. But the lies grew more tangled, And with each passing day, the weight of his manipulation grew heavier. She could feel the walls closing in, knowing that revealing the truth would ruin everything, but so would keeping it hidden. Desperate and running out of options, she reached out to someone she trusted. But her choice would come with consequences she never expected. Would anyone believe her story, or was the pastor's web of lies already too strong to break? The stakes were higher than ever, and with time running out, everything was about to change. As her desperation reached its peak, she finally found the courage to confide in a close friend, a woman from the church who had always shown her kindness. At first, the friend didn't believe it. How could someone like Pastor William, a pillar of the community, commit such acts? But the more she listened, the more she realized the truth was staring her in the face. The friend helped her gather enough evidence to expose the pastor's horrifying secret. Together, they brought the truth to the authorities, and the pastor's life unraveled faster than anyone could have imagined. The community was left in shock, unable to reconcile the man they trusted with the monstrous truth that came to light. But just when it seemed like justice would be served, another twist emerged. The pastor's final move wasn't one of escape. It was something far more sinister. He had already planted doubt in the minds of the most powerful people in the town, leaving the girl with no one to turn to. But her bravery couldn't be extinguished. Despite his final attempts to silence her, she stood tall, ready to fight for her truth, for herself, and for the life she deserved. The story ended with a bittersweet resolution, not just for the young girl, but for the entire town that had been deceived for so long. While the pastor faced the consequences of his actions, the battle for justice wasn't over. The real fight was only just beginning. As the dust settled, the town was forced to confront the truth they had ignored for so long. The young girl, no longer a helpless victim, found the strength to reclaim her life. Though the scars would never fully disappear, she began to heal, with the support of those who believed her. The pastor, once admired, was arrested and charged with his crimes, but his downfall couldn't erase the pain he had caused. In the aftermath, the community was left grappling with the question: how had they been so blind to the manipulation and deceit? For the girl, the road to recovery was long, but she became an advocate for others who were too afraid to speak out. Her bravery sparked a movement, empowering survivors to share their stories and demanding accountability. The shocking truth had finally come to light, but the journey toward healing was just beginning, for both her and the community. The story ended not with closure, but with a renewed sense of justice.